So we all hope that you feel well with all this COVID-19 story that we all feel it now all over, also here in Israel. But you know what we do here? We just go out to the fresh air in Eretz Israel, and we also want to bring you this scenery, this Israeli scenery, this view, this biblical stories, Talmudic stories to your homes to feel the fresh air of Eretz Israel. Hi there, everybody. My name is Doron. I live in SUSYA, not in the ancient SUSYA, in the modern SUSYA, and that's probably the first time that you hear this very strange name. Well, SUSYA is first of all an ancient site from the times of Mishnah and Talmud. We're now located about 10 miles south of Hebron and about 15 miles north of Be'er Sheva, exactly on the midway on the route that Avraham Avinu walks from Be'er Sheva to Hebron. Somewhere in between, that's where SUSYA is located. This site was established some time about the 2nd century or the 3rd century AC. That means about 200 years after the destruction of the Second Temple. It's an archaeological site, and in a very short time, we'll go around and see some surprises that archaeologists revealed here about 40 years ago. Okay, so before we go into the ancient city, we'll have to look at this burial cave you see right in front of you now. And you know, there is a very famous story in the Chazal, in the Talmud, telling us about this kid that was very, very tired. Him and his father were walking, and he asked his father, "Father, Daddy, tell me, where is the city? I'm thirsty, I'm hungry. When are we going to be there?" His father tells him, "If you see the burial caves, this means we're very, very, very close." You know, it has many other meanings about Geulah and Mashiach we're expecting and everything. If it looks hard, this means that we're very, very close to the Geulah. So you see the burial cave, and if you look over there, you see that very close to the burial cave, right after you pass it, you see the site, you see the ancient city, and we're also going to go into the city now. Just remember that we have tens of burial caves all over, all Jewish burial caves from the times of Mishnah and Talmud. Let's go into the city. You may ask, how do I know that this is a Jewish site? What are the clues for us as archaeologists to know that this is a Jewish place? Well, we'll have to go into details now and to just be some kind of detectives. Go and see the stones and see the clues here and there. The first one is right behind me. You see now a big stone, which was in its origin, it was a lintel. It was above the entrance. And you can see, if you look very, 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 very well, 2 menorahs carved into the stone. There is one menorah here with the 7 branches, and there is another menorah here with other 7 branches. And just imagine that when you enter this house sometime about 1500 years ago, you went into it and you saw the lintel above you, seeing the 2 menorahs. Now, that's not the only hint we have to this Jewish site. We have another one. Look at this carving into the stone. You understand that if this was a Jewish place, then when you entered this room, you saw the mezuzah right on your right. Of course, the parchment is not here. It was never found, but you can see the hole. You see it on the right side, and this starts to be very exciting. You have a menorah, you have a mezuzah, and then we're going to see another clue to this site being Jewish. Maybe you, now sitting in your home, could guess what is the 3rd clue to this site being Jewish. Let's go and see. So here we come to this 3rd story. If you didn't guess yet, Well, we are now standing in front of a mikveh tahara, a ritual bath. Now, if you know, let's say, about 3 or 4 mikvahs where you live, here in Susya, which is a small city, 100 dunam or 24, 25 hectares, here we have 40 mikvahs all over. And this tells us something about this Jewish community living here 1500 years ago. This is one of these 40 mikvahs, and we're going to go inside to see how it looks in those ancient times. Okay, so it's cool inside here. We went down a few steps. We're in the mikveh now. You're going to see the water from the last winter. It's amazing that still 1500 years ago, and this mikveh is filled up again and again every winter. And this is all thanks to the ancient plaster. You see the plaster here, you see the plaster all over the stone, the rock. And this prevents the water from running away. And as you can see, the mikveh is full of water. Okay, so please get out, because I have to take off my clothes and go into the mikveh now. Well, I don't know if you noticed, but at the beginning we said that this site was established tens of years after the destruction of the Second Temple. And this is very surprising to see so many mikvahs here, because you know, after the mikdash, after the temple was destructed by the Romans at the year of 70 AC, actually we don't need so many mikvahs. Why do Jewish people have to go and use those mikvahs all the time if we don't have a mikdash? And we have so many of them, and this is very, very unique to Susya. You will not find so many mikvahs in an ancient site like you find in Susya. Even if you know the Jewish quarter in Jerusalem, and you ever visited there, and you know that there are tens of mikvahs there, that's not a good example, because they all existed during the times of mikdash. Here we have tens of mikvahs, hundreds of years after the temple was destructed. And you know, scholars always ask, how come? This is so strange. Why do we need so many mikvahs? Some of the scholars think that maybe many Kohanim lived in this town. There are some proofs for this. For example, the Mosaic floor that we're going to see in a few minutes tells us about Isi a Kohen. And if we go even further back in Jewish history to the times of Tanakh, times of the Bible, we'll see that this whole area, Utah and Eshtamoa and other sites, were all Kohanim sites, Kohanim and Leviim sites, as we know from the book of Joshua from Sefer Yoshua. So this may be one of the explanations for this unique phenomenon of so many mikvahs in a small site 1500 years ago. You see behind me Bet Knesset, the ancient synagogue of Susya, the most important spot in this ancient site. We're going to be there in a while. You're going to see the Mosaic floor, you're going to see everything around it, but it's important to notice from here how it is so big from here. Just imagine that you were walking here 1500 years ago in times of Mishnah and the Talmud. You were looking to the north, seeing this giant, this huge building, understanding why the Mishnah says, and the Tosefta and Chazal sources, why do they say Bet Knesset bonim oto begovha shel ir? It's supposed to be built on the highest spot of town, of course, because it's the most important place for Jewish community living around here and actually everywhere. If we look to the north, far away, you can see on top of the mountains the city of Hebron. Hebron, you probably all heard and you know about Me'arat HaMachpelah, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who are buried there. And you can see Hebron from here. Right under Hebron, you can see a huge village called in Arabic Yatta. But it's very interesting, you know, that all those Arab names actually preserve the ancient biblical names. In other words, if you want the map of the Tanakh, Eretz Israel, from a biblical point of view, if you want the biblical map of Eretz Israel, you just have to look well into the Arabic names, and you will realize that almost each and every Arab name under it preserves the Hebrew ancient name. So Yatta in Arabic is actually Yuta. You just have to open the book of Joshua, Sefer Yoshua, Perek Tetvav, and you will see Yuta as one of the Kohanim towns in Joshua, also Perek Kaf Aleph, not only Perek Tetvav. Same thing with this other village you see right over there, which is called in Arabic Samoa, but of course this is Eshtamoa, the biblical Eshtamoa. We know many things about it. We also know that it was Kohanim's town also in the book of Joshua. And we also have a very interesting evidence from the times of Mishnah, a Christian evidence telling us that this was a giant Jewish town. If you'll come visit sometime in Eretz Israel, I'll take you there and show you this ancient synagogue that was excavated there about 70 years ago. It's very interesting that we have a Bet Knesset, an ancient one, not only here in Susya, but also in Eshtamoa. By the way, there's probably another ancient synagogue. You see that we have a bunch of them in Yatta, but it's still buried under the modern houses. And who knows, maybe sometime we'll excavate it and see another synagogue in our area. Another interesting story is that the Susya residents, and by the way, not only Susya, but all around this region south of Hebron, were living underground in carved caves, like you can see here in the cave we're now. And this has to do with the fact that we are very close to the deserts of Eretz Israel. To the east, we have Midbar Yehuda, the Judean desert, and the Dead Sea. And to the south, we have the Negev, the Beersheba area. You know that in the deserts, nomads were walking all around with their shepherds, and thieves used to come from the desert into this agricultural land to rob everything they had here. That's why many people, especially here in Susya and in the area, use to prepare their cave so they could run away or hide the wheat, the barley, and everything, the grapes and everything they had to eat in those caves. That's why in Susya we have tens of caves. We have I think, more than 100 caves in Susya. You can see this specific one, which is reconstructed. You can see the pottery, you can see the vessels, you can see the table, you can see the bed and everything. And in good times, when Bezrat Hashem, you will visit Eretz Israel, of course you'll come to Susya, obviously, right? So when you will visit Susya, you'll come to this cave and you'll see the movie that they are showing here, trying to reconstruct and understand ancient lives in Susya during the times of Mishnah and the Talmud. Okay, we're now finally entering Bet Knesset, this ancient synagogue in Susya. It's one out of 4 that were excavated here in our area. One of them I mentioned before in Eshtamoa. Another one is not far from here in Ma'on. I'm going to show it to you in a while. And another one is also not far from here. It's in the Yatir forest, about 5 miles south of Susya. Before we go in, just notice this huge stone which used to close the entrance to Bet Knesset. And you're probably asking, why do they need such a massive entrance to Bet Knesset? Well, you probably remember what we just saw before. Living in caves means that we are in an area which was under some kind of a danger by nomads from the desert. That's why many things here in Susya, archaeological speaking, are done when people in mind had this danger. That's why we have such a big stone closing Bet Knesset. And by the way, you can see if you just go a bit far, just go and look from far away on Bet Knesset, you'll see some kind of a fortress more than a Bet Knesset. And that's, of course, that has to do with the fact that we are very close to these dangers coming from this neighboring desert. Let's go in. Before we go daven in Bet Knesset, Mincha, Mariv, if you want Shachrit, whatever you want, let's look at this very interesting inscription which was found here about 40 years ago when this place was excavated. And look what it says. You can all read it by yourself. You don't need me for this, because those are Hebrew letters. This is Ivrit. It says, Zachur letova, Zachur letova. Be remembered, letova, Kdushat Mari Rabbi Isi HaKohen. There is one guy called Rabbi Isi HaKohen, which was probably was a very famous rabbi because he has so many adjectives here. Kdushat Mari Rabbi Isi HaKohen, he was a Kohen. המכובד ברבי שעשה הפסיפוס הזה. פסיפוס, of course, פסיפס, or what you call a mosaic floor, שעשה הפסיפוס הזה, ותח את כותליו בסיד. He donated the plasters on the wall, תח את כותליו בסיד. מה שנתנדב, he donated במשתה, משתה is the wedding, במשתה רבי יוחנן הכהן הסופר בירבי בנו, his son. We have a whole big story here. We have a story about Rabbi Isi. His son, Rabbi Yochanan, was married here in Susya, and he decides to give a present to Bet Knesset. He gives them the money for the mosaic floor. He gives them the money for the plasters. You know, it's very interesting. This inscription is from the 4th or 5th century, about, let's say, 300 years, let's say, after destruction of the second temple, Churban Bet HaMikdash HaSheni. But you know that in our days, people are still doing their marriage here. Still, we have weddings here in Susya. We have bar mitzvahs in Susya. We have Brit Milah in this ancient synagogue. It's very exciting to see how the generations, you know, those from the times of Mishnah Talmud and our generation are connected through these ancient sites, through the very special archaeology of Eretz Israel. Let's go inside Bet Knesset. You know, it says in the Talmud that Bet Knesset is mikdash me'at. It's called mikdash me'at. Mikdash, temple, what does Bet Knesset have to do with Bet HaMikdash? It's like a small mikdash. A very interesting archaeological fact that we have here in Susya is that in order to go into Ulam HaTfilah, to daven or to study Torah in Bet Knesset, you have to go from the street, you have to climb those stairs, then another bunch of stairs, another bunch of stairs. It takes time until you get in. Now, if you will visit Jerusalem, ancient Jerusalem, when you'll see Sha'arei Hulda, when you had to enter Bet HaMikdash through Har HaBayit, you had to go and go up those staircases. It takes a while until you get into Bet HaMikdash, telling us that you don't just run into Bet HaMikdash, you have to be calm, you have to get ready spiritually before you go into Bet Knesset, whether for Tfilah or for Limud Torah. And that's why we have in Bet Knesset Besusya those staircases that you go up and up. It takes a while until you get into Bet Knesset. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go into Ulam HaTfilah. I'm going to show you some very interesting things there. Whoever got into Bet Knesset, the first thing he saw was this inscription that was found here, also written in Hebrew. You know, it's very interesting because if you'll come to Eretz Israel and you will visit all kinds of ancient synagogues in the Galilee, in the Golan or other places, you'll see that all the inscriptions are written in Aramaic, or in Greek. The only place in which we find Hebrew inscriptions is in Susya. The first one we saw down there, and the second one is right here. And that's a very important fact, because if I open the Gemara, if I open the Talmud, in Masechet Yevamot, it says, Bnei Galil shelo shamru al leshonam, lo nishtamra toratam beyadam. Bnei Yehuda sheshamru al leshonam, nishtamra toratam beyadam. Saying that the Jewish communities in the Galilee, in the Galil, they were very open, very liberal. They spoke Greek, they spoke Aramaic, but they don't really use the Hebrew language, which was left for the Bible, for Limud Torah, and that's it. Here in Susya, people used to speak and write Hebrew hundreds of years after Bet HaMikdash, and that's very important that we see two inscriptions written in Hebrew. And it says, Zchurim letova velivracha. May those people who their name was not preserved here be remembered, letova velivracha. She'echziku ve'asu, they donated something to Bet HaKnesset. And then here comes the most interesting part. Hashana hashniya shel Shavua, meaning the second year to the Shemitah. And then it says, Arbaat alafim. I wish I knew how many hundreds and tens, but then it says, Shenivra ha'olam. We have a ta'arich, we have a date, a Hebrew date here, counting to Bri'at ha'olam. You know, that's the only Hebrew inscription in the world, in archaeology, that we know that counted to Bri'at ha'olam and at the same time to Shnat Shemitah. That's unique, there is no other site, not in Eretz Israel, not in any place over the world, that we ever found in archaeology those two kinds of dates. You know that if this was preserved as a whole inscription and not only the right half, then we could also have known the exact date to this inscription. But now we have only half, but still, it's still important because it's very, very unique. Date to Bri'at ha'olam, 4,000 and something, mishenivra ha'olam. Okay? Let's go inside and see the whole mosaic floor. We are now in the main hall of Bet HaKnesset. You could see all around those benches. People used to sit on those benches around this hall. And of course, there were benches on the mosaic floor. You know, people in those times didn't come to Bet HaKnesset only to daven, Shachrit Mincha Arvit, like we know it today, but people came to Bet HaKnesset especially on Shabbat to listen to the drasha of the rabbi, of the Chacham. Okay, we know at least about one of them, Rabbi Isia Cohen, we just saw before in this Hebrew inscription in the courtyard before we entered Bet HaKnesset. Behind me is the bima. You know, that's also very unique to Susya. There are no other synagogues in Eretz Israel, ancient ones of course, that we found so many marble pieces that decorated the bima of Bet HaKnesset. You could see here it's of course reconstructed, but if you will visit the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, you will see all the broken original marble pieces that decorated the bima. You see the bima is facing north to Yerushalayim, of course, as all other synagogues, also in your place, of course. And this marble decoration was carved with many inscriptions of many people that donated pieces of those marbles in honor of Bet HaKnesset. You could see the menorah here, and in the original one, if we go back 1,500 years ago, we could have seen here all kinds of decorations, natural decorations, animals, trees, and of course, as I told you, many inscriptions of Jewish people from this special community. You know that in one of the inscriptions, it was written, Ana Hashem Hoshia Na. And in another inscription, someone probably donated something to Bet Knesset, and it said here, Kehala Karta Kadisha, Kehilat Kodesh, the holy community of Susya, of course. Here on the mosaic floor, you could see the facade of Bet HaMikdash. You can see two menorahs on both sides, okay, and the main entrance to Bet HaMikdash, or maybe, as some of the scholars think, the entrance to this specific synagogue. If you look well, you'll also see, right under the right menorah, you could see lulav and etrog, and on the right side you could see a shofar. You know that shofar and lulav and etrog are two mitzvahs that Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai from Yavne, him and other chachamim were arguing what should we do with shofar and what should we do with lulav and etrog after Churban Bet HaMikdash. We're still obliged to those mitzvot which remind us the destruction of the temple. And in Yavne, they decided that, of course, yes, right after the destruction of the temple, half a generation after that, our Chachamim decided that we're doing things Zecher LaMikdash. And you see that right next to the menorahs, which remind us the Mikdash, and the facade of Bet HaMikdash, you see there were two mitzvahs, the shofar, lulav, and etrog. Another thing, and that's the last thing I'll show you here, is this decoration in the middle of this hall on the mosaic floor. You see a geometric decoration, circle, but if you look well, you'll see on the left side small remains from the zodiac. They had the zodiac here in Susya, but probably someone didn't really like the idea that all kinds of symbols coming from the Greek or Roman culture are in Bet Knesset Besusya, and they just decided to give up this zodiac. They covered it by another younger mosaic floor and did the geometric decoration here in Bet Knesset Besusya. So this is Bet Knesset. That's as I told you before, the most important place in the Jewish community of Susya. Just like in our days, people came here to Bet Knesset not only to daven, not only to study Torah. They came here for everything that had to do with the Jewish community. This is not so different from from your life. You know what Bet Knesset is. You know that many things are done in Bet Knesset and not only davening in your communities. And that's exactly what happened here in Susya, times of Mishnah and times of Talmud. We'll have to finish our tour with a big hope. First of all, that we'll all be healthy, of course, in this very specific time. And another thing is to hope, of course, that we'll see you here real in Susya, not only through this movie. And when you come here to Eretz Israel and you travel all over, Yerushalayim, Masada, Golan Heights, everywhere, don't forget to visit Susya, because that's a kind of a capsula. That's a kind of a very unique region and site that gives you regards, very warm regards from our Avot v'Chachamim, Tanaim, Amoraim, Mishnah, Talmud, and of course, Tanakh. So be healthy, and we'll see you in Susya.